Chapter 2. The Copper Pot. After a change of clothes, trousers, boots, brown bomber jacket, and a face washing, Reese rode the cable trolley up to the Overcity as Minus lay in her shoulder bag. The twilit sky shone pink and turquoise across the cobblestone boulevards leading to Jen and Brent's place. Street lamps flickered to life as light rain clouds tumbled down from the nearby Udon Mountains, pattering the city and her bubble umbrella. A couple of citizens' unionists called steam shotters dressed in hoods and cloaks nodded to Reese as she walked. She could never help a little smile at the sight of them. Like a carpet of copper, concrete, and steel, the Overcity's buildings and walkways crept up the hills within the city walls. The city gained momentum as it climbed, the structures growing larger and more elaborate until it all plateaued at Mechanmont Row, where Mackendoon's wealthy merchant gentry kept their grounds and manors. The first time Reese had seen Mackendoon's Overcity was from the southern countryside. Mackendoon had stood hazy in the distance, its great buildings and smokestacks a very welcome change following the long journey with her friend Kid. So much had changed since then. Reese reached the alley behind Jen and Brent's inn, the Copper Pot. The bubble umbrella shielded her from dripping eaves while steam billowed from street vents. Slight aches pulsed in the cybernetic nodes drilled into her legs, just as they always had. It'd take a lot more than aches and pains to keep her away from Jen's cooking, though. Jen and Brent ran their modest inn on Steamshot Boulevard, close to the western wall of the city so new arrivals wouldn't have to venture far for lodging. The Copper Pot's cherry wood floors were always swept clean. Live music filled the main hall and poured out into the streets on weekends, and Jen's legendary food kept business bustling. Word had it that before marrying Brent, she'd been courted by several merchant families up the hills to be head chef of their manors. She could have had it all: excellent pay, repute among the elite, and the freedom to travel with her lords and ladies on their sky yachts all across the Antipodes. Instead, she chose the man she loved and the life that came with him. She was happy. And, as she continually reminded Reese, that's what mattered most. Reese adjusted her blue neck bandana, ensuring her tattoo was covered, the Copper Pot's back door silently observing the ritual. 2, the first tattooed numeral read, indicating her sex. 12, the second numeral read, indicating her month of birth. 79, the third numeral read, indicating her year of birth. 3, the fourth numeral read, indicating her trade, machinist. Last were 6 vertical bars. If not for Kid, there might now be 7, 8, 9. So much had changed. Satisfied her serial number was properly hidden, Reese reached out to ring the buzzer. Before she could, Minus leapt out of her bag like a startled cat, grasped onto the wall, and gave the buzzer a big, extravagant push. The back door's lock clicked, and Minus hopped back into the bag. Reese looked down. He sat on his little metal bum, looked up, and waved. "Must you press every button? Must there always be drama?" Minus nodded. Reese smiled, shaking her head, and closed her umbrella as she entered. Brass pipes climbed the walls and stretched across the ceiling of the Copper Pot's kitchen. There were several big stoves and iceboxes, cabinets, an island for prep cooking, and well-used pots and pans hanging all over the place. A cook's kitchen indeed. Brent and Jen's busboy Casper scrubbed dishes when she came in, his apron stained with water and grease. He was a couple years older than her, pale-skinned, heavy-set, with short, sandy brown hair and silver eyes. Sweet guy, but sort of a goof.
"Reese, Mr. Brent and Miss Jen didn't say you were coming by."
"Evening, Casper. How's tricks?" He stared and smiled. "Casper?"
"Huh?"
"You're staring again."
He said, abashed. "We talked about this, didn't we?"
A robotic eye-rolling groan came from Reese's bag. She slapped it.
"Don't be fresh."
Casper blushed, looking away.
"Sorry, I meant no harm, we just don't get many pleasant faces."
Reese's bag flailed against her.
"I can't take you anywhere, you wretched bolt bucket."
Casper gawked.
"Are you all right, Reese?"
Reese wrestled the bag into submission, grasping a minus-shaped hunk of canvas against herself, her eyes wide.
Yes, Stop it, you rat. Yeah, I'm great. Everything's great.
The bag struggled, and Minus let out an error buzz sound. Casper realized what was happening.
Ah, hello, Minus.
Minus mimicked the sound of hello.
Parenthood,
Reese said as she headed for the main hall. The main hall was built of cherry wood from floor to ceiling, with copper-colored lights and a well-stocked bar of beer, wine, cider, and spirits. The floors were always swept and mopped, the lights bright and clear, and the copper polished. The copper pot could probably service clientele up the hills a bit, but Brent and Jen loved being at the bottom of the overcity with common folk. Clusters of guests were scattered about the tables, dunking fresh bread into their stews as they swapped stories. Hooded people sat in the back corner, more steam-shot unionists from this very borough. There was even a young family with a little one, rare for any inn to comfortably host so many sorts, though Reese reckoned word had gotten around about Brent McCobb surgically removing troublemakers' teeth with his fists. Sweet as cake, that one, but he also spent a lot of free time bench pressing. Called it job security or dinner theater, depending on the night's crowd. Jen and Brent always ate at the table closest to the bar and kitchen. The stew pot was covered and the bread was set. They waited for her. Brent leant against the bar when Reese came in. He caught her in the corner of his eye and opened his arms wide, his vest straining across his broad chest.
"Look who it is. Give us a hug, dearie."
Reese tossed her bag onto a nearby table and Minus practically squawked. She gave Brent his hug. Jen swooped in from behind and pecked her on the cheek, saying, "Hello, sweet." Jen stood to her husband's shoulder, her blonde hair cascading behind her in a voluptuous mane. She talked like a farmer, but dressed like a merchant lord's mistress, leather tight around the curvy parts of her, tall boots, knee breeches, linen half-skirt draping behind her. She was a lady, heavens help anyone who argued that point, but would also slug anyone needing it. Came with the territory when one owned a bar, Reese figured. Jen set down a mason jar of what looked to be sweet tea beside Minus, who kicked off Reese's canvas bag like a pair of oversized pants.
"Hello, Minus."
Minus waved from the far side of the jar, his form brown and wobbly.
"Careful, Jen," Reese said as Brent ushered her to sit. "He's not on best behavior today."
Jen cocked her hip.
"My Minus, it isn't so."
Minus waved offhandedly at Reese. Clearly she was out of her head.
"Minus is always polite around me,"
Jen said as Minus picked up a stray butter knife and bore it like a two-handed sword.
"Go ahead, then,"
she said, nodding toward the bar. He leapt from the table to the bar in a single bound, cutting, parrying, and stabbing at mock adversaries with the knife.
"You may be asking for trouble,"
Reese said, an eyebrow arched as Minus flourished. Minus's imagination could get bothersome at times, but Reese would never defragment the little guy. His quirks were more than occasionally hilarious, and as a true AI, she insisted he always have his freedom.
"I trust Sir Minus,"
Jen said, spooning up a ladle full of meaty stew and emptying it into Reese's bowl.
"So, what's new?"
Reese asked.
"Business has been
"We got a letter,"
Brent blurted out. Jen's jaw dropped.
"Confound it, Brent, can't we eat first?"
Brent's cheeks flushed, a silly sight from such a big man.
"I'm no good with secrets."
"Why's it a secret?"
Reese asked, tasting the stew, peppery, robust, with a hint of sweetness in the finish.
Jen, you've done it again."
"You're too kind," Jen replied, touching her hand to her chest.
"Well, you see."
The couple shared a wary glance. Brent sat straighter.
"The letter is for you."
Reese squinted, wiping stew from the corner of her mouth.
"Who from?" "He wouldn't tell us,"
Jen said as Brent slid a paper from his pants pocket and laid it on the table.
"I tried to make him sit down to see what he was about," Brent said. "I tell you he was half my size and thrice as strong. Twisted my arm with one hand. Surely a thaumaturge, one of those kinetics with that inhuman strength, had an omen about him." Reese's heart raced.
Kid, have you finally come back?
Sweet, Jen said, green eyes compassionate. You know you can tell us anything. You're not in trouble, are you? Reese reached absently for the folded letter, her vision blurring as she peered into the middle distance.